back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
And we're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show, 347-205-9399. The next clip we're going to talk about is the president goes into the economy. I'm just going to play it.
So much. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans. Today in America, a teacher.
So, now I noticed that's the beginning part again that you played, and I asked you to play it on break because did you hear, does it not sound when he said, Mr. Speaker and my fellow Americans and all that crap, that he's just dripping with contempt? Members of Congress. I mean, it just, I don't know, maybe I'm hypersensitive, but it just seems to me that he just has no respect for them. And I asked you to play that again because I wanted to hear it to make sure I was hearing it right. And we've listened to it. We discussed it a little bit, but I wanted to our listeners to have a chance to hear it again and catch that if they hadn't had an opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
Am I off base?
No, you're not off base. I did get that feeling. It's almost like he's annoyed that he has to address them because they should be addressing him. Like, oh, you should be bowing to me. I should not be bowing to you, per se.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill Clinton had that same philosophy.
Right.
And Monica Lewinsky kind of took it to a different level. But you know what I mean, right? But you picture bowing to him, right, over and over again?
Repeatedly.
Right.
Lit him a cigar. I'm done now. I can't even talk. All right. Oh, I got to find the clip.
So
I
much.
think this is it.
Mr. Speaker.
Nope.
No, hang on. Contempt. Did you hear it? What is this, a government-funded operation?
You had me all screwed. I can't even find the clip. Go, just move on.
Have Sacco find the clip.
Dude, the Bill Clinton thing just spun me all up.
It did. What is wrong with you?
Oh, that was pretty funny.
Okay, so during the State of the Union,
Sorry.
it's okay.
I never get like that. I don't know why that caught me. So that was like a left hook of humor.
It was like a sucker punch. Get it? Sucker punch. See how I did that?
Brought it right around.
Brought it right back around. So he said a manufacturing sector adding jobs for the first time since the 90s. Catch that part of the clip, not of the clip, but of his speech.
Of his opener, yeah.
Of his opener. Now, manufacturing jobs reached a low point in 2010, January 2010, which was into your term.
Yeah, but
since
Bush's fault.
Since then, it's gained 570,000 jobs from a fact checker report on Washington Post. Mm-hmm. But BLS data show that the number of manufacturing jobs, again, from the Washington Post fact check report, shows that still 500,000. There are still 500,000 less manufacturing jobs now than when Obama took office. So before the recession, manufacturing had been in a decline, and now he's saying that it's the first time we've added jobs since the 90s in the manufacturing sector. It's really disingenuous, correct?
We had Solyndra and a lot of the other green companies that were
manufacturing.
Right. Okay, so that's fine.
Yeah.
By the way, quote of the week from my brother-in-law, who says, how many times have we closed Gitmo? Because he gets into that later on in the speech. And I said, more times than we've closed Solyndra. Oh, I'm sorry, we closed Solyndra one time more than we've closed Gitmo. But, yeah, I mean, the economy, manufacturing is way down. It has been for some time, since the EPA started to grow, which he says at one point that he's going to use executive order to once again grow and protect the environment when he gets into climate change. Manufacturing is down. Why? Because it's costing so much money. You look at the boot-to-the-neck tactics they've taken on manufacturing, like anything that's coal-based, steel production. actual manufacturing. We're not talking about manufacturing, Cupid dolls. That's not manufacturing. Real hardcore manufacturing, products that actually hit floors and people actually use day-to-day manufacturing.
First of all, I don't like the term boot on the throat. When you're talking about the EPA and manufacturing sector and so forth, I prefer Birkenstock on the neck area, dripping patchouli oil as they lean in their face. That is the visual that I get when we're talking about this stuff. So let's go with that.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So we all know that they've destroyed.
We all know that when the hippies really put their Birkenstock on the throat of these manufacturing, and they're just in their face dripping patchouli and sweat,
long,
that
unwashed
hair,
nails and feet,
right, just smelling like a dirty
dumpster.
and then
hairy dumpster feet.
And then you wonder why we need income equality so they can afford some freaking soap.
Let's see. More domestic oil has been produced in America than it has in the last 20 years. One of the things that, and I read up on this earlier today, one of the things that never gets accounted when he makes statements like this is the fact that technology has improved.
Right.
And we can produce more efficiently.
Was he talking about, what kind of oil was he talking about, though? Was he talking about hemp oil? Because that is true.
Through the roof.
Right?
But that's something that...
California, Colorado. I mean, what kind of oil are we talking about? Patchouli? I talked about patchouli.
I believe, crude oil.
But he did not specify that.
Right, that's true.
So we cannot fact-check that. We don't know.
Well, that would make sense because farming, according to him, our farming export is way up.
Okay.
So maybe it is Wesson oil and corn oil.
Right. So we can't fact check that. So we have to apologize.
But our production's gone up because we're doing it more efficiently because technology is better. And
our production has gone up because our listenership is up.
Absolutely. But I was talking about oil production.
Apologize.
And a lot of people now on private land, because he's still not issuing on federal land, a lot of people on private land are producing more oil because it's the technology it takes to discover, extract, and everything is better and more affordable to that landowner or that company or whatever. So we are producing more oil than we were 20 years ago.
But no thanks to him.
But no thanks to him whatsoever.
Correct.
And I'd like to remind him that 20 years ago, even though we weren't producing and we were importing, the price of gasoline was still, 92 cents a gallon?
Yeah.
Something to that effect?
Something like that. And who was president 20 years ago?
And as he says later when he's talking about climate control, we're using less. So if we're using less and we're producing more and we're far less dependent on foreign oil, why the hell am I still spending $3.50 a gallon?
Why are you yelling at me right now?
Sorry. I didn't have a choice. No, I'm yelling anyways. So the fact that he throws that out there, like, hey, look, slam dunk, like Michelle did in that commercial, and we're using less, but it's costing so much, is a very big indicator that it's OPEC that we're dealing with that has them charging us an exorbitant amount of money for the oil, and the amount of taxes that gets placed on each gallon of gasoline. Because as much as this government hates oil and this president wants us to be domestic oil and, carbon-free, carbon footprint, they don't mind taxing the hell out of every gallon to get everything they can out of it. And they're taxing it more so we use it less.
So was this a backhanded comment at Hillary and Bill? Because Clinton was president 20 years ago.
Yeah, I would say so. Hillary's going to be pissed. I hope he doesn't make the list for his own sake. He might be a 7. Like
the shit list?
Yeah, her list. The one that she keeps.
Right.
The one that came up.
The one that, but Santa Claus, is that the one that he checks twice?
So, lowest unemployment in 5 years. We talked about that a little bit. Well, that's BS because it's less people are looking for jobs. That's pretty much what that comes down to. Less people are looking for jobs, so that's just kind of simple. So that pretty much covers the open it. We cover the deficit, the housing, manufacturing, all that stuff. Let's move on to climate change because, I found this quite interesting that he had to throw his little climate change speech in.
When we rescued our automakers, for example, we worked with them to set higher fuel efficiency standards for our cars.
Wait, I gotta stop. We rescued our automakers. First of all, remember Detroit's still alive, even though it doesn't look like it. If Detroit's still alive, it must be a zombie city. But we also, GM cost us $10 billion. It cost you and I, the taxpayers, $10 billion.
Well, yeah, but we got the Chevy Volt.
Yeah, we got the Chevy Volt because we pretty much said you need to produce this because we own you. Again, the government owning.
We got the Chevy Volt. Listen, look how popular Volkswagen is.
Chrysler.
All I'm saying is Volkswagen was government owned, correct?
Yes.
At its inception.
GM, which is what the government owned, you and I owned for a long time, still did worse than Chrysler and Ford, and it cost us $10 billion. So that whole statement about that is just ridiculous, but I digress.
When we rescued our automakers, for example, we worked with them to set higher fuel efficiency standards for our cars. And it will require some tough choices along the way. But the debate is settled. Climate change is a fact. And when our children's children look us in the eye and ask if we did all we could to leave them a safer, more stable world with new sources of energy, I want us to be able to say, yes, we did.
Okay, so first of all, climate change is a fact. Now, is he talking about, and this is what I have to sincerely wonder, correct? Because there was geologists and so forth, scientists have said that the Earth has gone through an ice age, correct?
Yes.
So the climate obviously has changed.
Yes.
At some point in the Earth's history.
Mm-hmm.
The climate changes on a fairly regular basis. We have 4 seasons, correct?
Yes.
So the climate is constantly changing.
Every couple months.
The Earth's rotation is not constant, right? I mean, it doesn't fit our 24-hour clock perfectly to the millisecond.
Nope.
Therefore, times are going to be off as the time continuum goes on. Also, our orbit around the sun is not a perfect circle, so we're going to have variations there, and all that affects weather. So, of course, there is going to be change in climate. So if that's what he was talking about, yeah, hey, I'm with him. Climate change is documented. Climate changes all the time. Look, hey, it's raining right now. It wasn't rainy yesterday. The climate has changed, Sean. So I'm going to go ahead and have to give this one to him because the science is settled. Climates do change.
And if you do, listen, there was a group of scientists out of Europe a couple weeks ago that turned around and said, whoa, maybe we overreacted on the whole climate change thing.
You mean global warming?
Global warming, sorry.
But he said climate change.
He did say
so we kind of have to give this one to him.
Okay, on a technicality, no, I'm refusing.
And he did, but he did say leave our world a safer place for the kids. Right? That's nice. So we didn't outlaw guns so that they could protect themselves.
Right, absolutely. Oh, by the way,
with renewable energy, so he's clearly talking about laser guns.
This global warming
that
everyone's talking about?
No, it's climate change.
The people down in the southeast right now are really hoping for some global warming soon.
No, but that's the reason it's snowing right now, Sean.
Well, listen, let's look
at the science is settled. You're not a scientist, Sean. You don't understand. You are not one of the chosen ones.
You're right. I apparently don't have any clue. However, there's a group of scientists more and more now who are saying that the world is overreacting on climate change and maybe we don't affect it as much as we possibly can.
But how could they say that? The science is settled.
Well, I know he said that.
Oh, but that's not true.
But that's not entirely true.
Oh.
So, listen, he had to throw that in. That's his voter base. He had to get it in there. But let's face it, most of that is crud.
You can say crap.
Most of that's crap.
Yeah.
So he moved on to immigration at some point. He hit a couple things, but I thought this was important to discuss on the immigration aspect of it. So
Republicans and Democrats in the Senate have acted, and I know that members of both parties in the House want to do the same. Independent economists say immigration reform will grow our economy and shrink our deficits by almost $1 trillion in the next 2 decades. And for good reason. When people come here to fulfill their dreams, to study, invent, contribute to our culture, they make our country a more attractive place for businesses to locate and create jobs for everybody. So let's get immigration reform done this year.
Yes, let's get it done. Let's just ram through another expensive bill that nobody knows what's in it and really just hammer it through as much as we possibly can. It'll work just as perfect as Obamacare.
Well, another interesting thing he said in there was add and change our culture.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. You know what? I don't want our culture altered or changed. If you're coming here for better opportunity, if you're coming here because this is a better place
Learn
to be,
our culture.
You want to improve your family situation or whatever it is. First of all, do it legally. There is a path for that. Second of all, you're coming here because our culture is such that allows you to do that. It allows the people that immigrate to this country legally opportunity. This is a land for opportunity. So why do you want to change that culture? Why do you want to bring – now, look, I'm not saying that I'm not tolerant of other cultures or anything like that because, listen, I enjoy the Mexican culture. I love the Hawaiian culture. There are other cultures that I enjoy. But if you're talking about the American culture, which does have the influence, the Mexican influence and the French influence in some parts of our country, it has a lot of influences. But why do you want to continue to change our culture when we have something here that clearly works? It's worked for over 200 some odd years,
right? And
we've been the bastion for liberty in the world. We've been the freest people ever in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. So why do you want to change that, and why do you want to do so in a manner that is not going to reward those that have obeyed the laws, but it's going to reward those that have chosen to break our laws? And there's a big fight coming between House Republicans and Senate Republicans, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, unless.
No, we'll do it after.
I just want to throw it down now.
I still have a few more clips from the State of the Union I want to cover.
But this is an issue that, first of all, he has failed to lead on as far as enforcement of laws go, and the Republicans are set up for a fight here that it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's going to get ugly quick. So we're going to cover that in part 3 of the show, maybe in a little bit of part 4. So the next step was he had to throw his comments in on health care and how amazing it is.
That's what health insurance reform is all about. The peace of mind that if misfortune strikes, you don't have to lose everything. Already, because of the Affordable Care Act, more than 3 million Americans under age 26 have gained coverage under their parents' plan.
3 million Americans will continue to live in mom's basement for an extended period of time.
No, it's going to be great. They're going to blog and they're going to play Xbox, and it's going to be so super wicked cool.
From time to time.
I play
Xbox. I love how 2 years ago he called it Obamacare, and then it was the Affordable Care Act, and now he's back calling it health care reform. It was not health care reform. It was a health care takeover. It is Obamacare, Mr. President. You designed it. You were involved in the implementation. You need to continue to own it. The simple fact of the matter is still more people have lost health care, and we may have crossed that line where they're actually starting to sign up again. But it also doesn't account for how many people have gone to Medicaid and all that stuff. That really isn't Obamacare.
And that's the thing. He's including in those numbers people that have gone to Medicaid, which people are going to enroll in anyway.
Yes. Because
they have to when they reach
and it's almost like an auto-enrollment in a lot of ways. We talked about flat files a million times, but essentially what they're doing is not making you provide your true financial earnings. They're assigning you up, and then they're going to get to it later.
And that Medicaid number, 6.3 million.
Yeah, around Medicaid.
So 6.3 of that 8 million, 6.3 million are Medicaid.
Yeah, so
which would have been there anyway.
Exactly. Actually, no, because they expanded the availability of Medicaid. They made it easier to get. So it probably would have been less.
Okay, so maybe let's cut it in half. Let's say 3 million.
Okay.
So that's still 5 million people that he's saying out of what our country's population that have gotten health care. Okay.
That's really nothing to brag about. But if you want to polish a turd and call it a gem, that's fine. Go ahead and get your polishing wheel out there, pal. And then I save this for last because this is one of many times that he brought up executive actions, and I don't want to go on all night because anyone who saw it can just tell you what a whole crock was. But here's his. pretty much the first time he really says he's going to sidestep
But America
Congress.
does not stand still, and neither will I. So wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation to expand opportunity for more American families, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so
first of all, you notice he substituted the word wealth redistribution for opportunity.
Yes.
And he talks about inequality, and he's not talking about equal access to opportunity, but he's talking about wealth redistribution.
Yes.
There's no doubt. So
as he has for many of years now.
Right. So him ignoring the Constitution, first of all, him acting unilaterally is unconstitutional. Now, I want to know why nobody on either side of the aisle, because really it's not a Democrat or a Republican issue, and I'm going to say this right now. What would the Democrats say if a Republican, if George Bush, whoever, stood up and said, you know what, if Congress doesn't act, I'm going to act unilaterally? And be very careful, Congress, what you do here and what you allow, because Democrats, I'm talking to you specifically, Republicans also. Republicans have a responsibility to stop this because they are the opposition party. But Democrats, you have a responsibility also. If you fail to stop this president from acting unilaterally, you have basically granted your consent to it.
Yes.
And have opened the door, based on past practice now, for a Republican president to come in and do the same thing.
I think they are so convinced that a Republican or conservative will never, ever, ever get voted in again.
But that's the danger. And I don't want a Republican doing this. I don't want a conservative doing this. I don't want a liberal. I don't want anybody in the presidency taking unilateral action without Congress. There's supposed to be gridlock. There is supposed to be. There is a reason things are supposed to work slow in our country.
Absolutely.
And it's to prevent government overreach and government intrusion. And it hasn't happened. When government runs amok, we get things like Obamacare. They pass bills that are thousands upon thousands of pages that nobody reads
whatsoever,
and the rights of citizens get trampled.
Yes.
And that's not government's job. Government's job is to protect those rights and liberties. So I'm so passionate about this on so many different levels, but this is not a left or right issue. This is an issue of constitutionality. And if he does this, better be impeachment proceedings. Congress had better assert its authority to stop any president from doing this.
I tweeted something out yesterday effective. You know, it's really sad when the president stands in front of Congress and says, I'm pretty much going to make you guys ineffective and unneeded, and they stand up and applaud him.
Yeah.
There was like a 15-second applaud after that. Oh, please make me useless. I already don't want to work and get paid a ton of money. Just take me out of I'll just sit in my office for 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and just collect my paycheck and my ridiculous health care benefits.
This has happened a couple times before in history. In Rome.
Okay.
Before it fell, when it went from being a matter of fact, read the play Cato. Read the play Cato. It used to be a very popular play here in the colonies and up to even up to the time of the Civil War. And you don't see it anymore in this country, but you can actually download it for free and read it. It's an open source item. Check out the play Cato. But I hate making this comparison because I hate comparing any American president to Adolf Hitler, but I'm going to compare the Reich and how Hitler rose to power with what Obama's talking about here. Remember, Hitler was not a dictator when it first started out.
No.
He was elected.
Yeah, I know.
And he seized power. So it's not like...
I never hear that a lot.
No, but it's
Everyone
not...
thinks that it was like this military coup that got him into
power. It wasn't. And it's not like... And yes, Hitler was a fascist, okay? And you have fascists. Obama's a Marxist, which tend to be more communist. And fascism and communism, two opposite ends of the spectrum. But here's the thing. They're both big government.
Right.
Okay? So when the Democrats call the Republicans fascist, well, they're not arguing true left and right. It's a big government argument, and conservatives are small government. So we kind of remove ourselves from that. Should be. But it was a takeover. It has happened in history before. It will happen again, and this president may be attempting that. Now, what he's attempting exactly, I don't know. I'm not going to go into some big conspiracy theory about how he wants to seize power for all time. Although with his ego and the pattern that he's shown, I wouldn't put it past him. But Congress really needs to step up and do it. And again, he talks about, there's gridlock, and even other Americans. Well, Congress really doesn't get anything done. Congress has done a lot. Congress has a budget now for the first time in how long?
10 years or something?
They've moved on other pieces of legislation. They just passed the farm bill, the farm subsidy bill. So Congress is actually moving and doing its job, and the president did not touch on one positive thing that Congress has done.
Budget. He did say that they passed the budget.
But that's it.
But here's the thing.
So
Congress passes laws all the time. They're doing stuff all the time. What he's saying is they're not doing the stuff that meets my agenda.
Right.
Therefore.
Or the House is passing things and the Senate's killing it, so
right.
They're not passing it together. But
guess what? That's how it's supposed to work.
It's supposed to work that way. Nobody is supposed to have pure power. Not one branch, and he's trying to seize that. It's very, very scary to me.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
Oh, that wasn't him. That was somebody else.
Oh, I don't know who that was. That sounded like Richard Nixon.
Richard Milhouse.
When the president does it, it's not illegal.
It's weird.
That sounds like something that Obama would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, listen, the whole State of the Union, there was a lot of me again. He's making.
Was he like Beaker?
Me. He's making himself almost like the people's champion. I'm going to do it if these slowly stupid congressmen aren't. I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to run things. I'm going to change things. Instead of the leader, I want to work with Congress to get this passed. I want to. Which he did say that a few times, but he never stayed with that. It always got to. But if they can't do it, Daddy's going.
I'm going to do it.
And that is the problem. If he came out and his whole thing was, hey, you know what, Congress, we need to work together. I will do the executive things on the stuff that isn't a law or something like that. I will get groups together who can maybe donate and work with kids for education. Fine. I will, help this group out by having them talk to this group. Great. That stuff is all stuff that he's supposed to do. He's supposed to bring people together to have a conversation to see if they can better the country. But he's not supposed to just, hey, if you don't pass the laws I want, I'm going to find a way to executive order it. I'm going to sidestep you, and you will bow to me just like Monica bowed to Bill.
But maybe in the same exact way, actually.
Same way. 347-205-9399 is the phone number. We'll be back in 3 here.
Does that mean all you'd hear in the halls of Congress is
from the halls?
And then, Mr. President.